Today, we begin with an act of violence that unfolded just blocks away from the White House, an attack that officials are calling a targeted ambush on 2 West Virginia National Guard members. The shooting happened on Wednesday afternoon, on one of the busiest travel days of the year ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. Authorities say the 2 Guard members were on what's known as a high-visibility patrol when a man rounded a corner and opened fire without warning. The Metropolitan Police said the attack appeared to be deliberate. After an exchange of gunfire, other Guard troops subdued the shooter, who was also injured. Both soldiers were immediately rushed to local hospitals in a critical condition.
We're here to brief you on the tragic events that happened today at approximately 2:15 local time in Washington, D.C., where 2 of our brave members of the National Guard and the Department of War were brazenly attacked in a horrendous act of violence. They were shot. They're in critical condition.
Within hours, officials identified the suspect. His name is Rahmanullah Lakanwal, a migrant from Afghanistan who entered the United States in 2021 and had been living in Washington state. Law enforcement agencies are still working to fully confirm his background, and so far, investigators believe he acted alone, but his motive remains unclear.
On a somber note, we had, and some of you may have seen this on your phones or on social media, but apparently there was a shooting outside the White House just a couple of hours ago. And we're still learning everything. We still don't know the motive. There's a lot that we haven't yet figured out.
The suspect's Afghan origin immediately pushed the story into charged political territory. And President Donald Trump called the shooting an act of terror, branding the suspect as an animal. The president, who was in Florida at the time of the attack, emphasized that the man was a foreigner from quote-unquote hellhole Afghanistan. He linked the attack to immigration, national security, and the legacy of America's longest war.
This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity.
Witnesses described chaos at the scene, saying they heard rapid gunfire as shattered glass covered the roadway.
I was headed to get lunch, and I got up to 17th and I Street and was going to take a right. And as soon as I got up 17th and I Street, we heard like rapid gunshots. So myself and other people started to run back down I Street. There were also like a UPS truck that like was speeding by too. And we got about halfway down I Street towards 18th, and we stopped because everything was quiet. So we thought maybe it was construction going on, though it certainly didn't sound like that.
The attack also intensified scrutiny of President Trump's broader domestic strategy. For months, his deployment of National Guard troops to cities across the country, including Los Angeles, Memphis, and Washington, has sparked lawsuits and protests from locals and leaders who argue the president is overreaching. In the aftermath, the White House briefly went into lockdown as federal and city agencies flooded the surrounding blocks. West Virginia's Governor, Patrick Morrisey, first announced that the soldiers had died, but later retracted that statement, citing conflicting reports about their condition.
Earlier today, 2 West Virginia National Guardsmen were brazenly shot in Washington, D.C. This was an act of unspeakable violence. Our hearts, our thoughts, our prayers go out to the brave service members, their families, and the units who are enduring this terrible tragedy.
And soon after the incident, the Trump administration ordered 500 additional National Guard members to Washington. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the president personally asked him to reinforce the city's security posture.
We'll secure our capital, we will secure our cities. In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House. It will not stand. And that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C.
As investigators work to determine what drove this attack, Washington is left grappling with a chilling question. What does it mean when soldiers deployed on American streets become the targets themselves? For now, the nation's capital remains on high alert, and the country is once again confronting the intersection of security, immigration and politics, a crossroads that is shaping the national conversation in real time.
I wore the crown of a revolutionary. I promised to lift my nation. I claimed to fight imperialism. I became the very thing I warned against. I funded militias across continents. I feared my own shadow. Some called me the King of Kings. History calls me something else. The dictator. Who am I?